Greetings, and welcome to Psychopedia. In this episode, you will participate in our exploration of historical shifts and transformations that coincide with the astrological event of Pluto moving through the sign of Capricorn. Remember, while this narrative provides some fascinating correlations, they are not scientifically validated causal relationships. However, no one deny the historical correlations between significant historic events, plagues and revolutions of the past to this planet and sign. In other words, the correlation is so prevalent that the connection cannot be dismissed. Why don't you listen and decide for yourself and leave a comment? We love to read those. Pluto is almost always the time of protests, revolutions, and pandemics, and COVID-19 is a most recent example of this. How can we forget the past 2 years of the pandemic? It transformed the way we work, shop, and relate to one another. Well, these are not an anomaly, as most historical pandemics have been triggered by Pluto in Capricorn. And now that this long transiting planet has moved into the eccentric sign of Aquarius, we are all about to witness a wonderful and innovative period of world history which people will be talking about for hundreds of years, but more on that later. Let's first briefly talk about Pluto to give history and the present events context. Please take this time to like, share the video, and please feel free to subscribe to support this channel. Pluto, named after the Roman god of the underworld, symbolizes transformation, death, and rebirth in astrology. Its transit through the hardworking and disciplined sign of Capricorn has often coincided with profound societal and intellectual changes. The celestial body known as Pluto was discovered on February 18, 1930, by an American astronomer named Clyde Tombaugh at the Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona. The search for a ninth planet had been going on for some time, driven by perceived irregularities in the orbits of Uranus and Neptune, which they believed could be explained by the presence of another, undiscovered planet. Pluto, however, is quite different from the other planets in our solar system. It's smaller and icier, with a composition more similar to the objects found in the Kuiper Belt, a region of the solar system beyond the orbit of Neptune filled with small, icy bodies. Its orbit is said to last 248 years and spends just about an equal amount of time in each sign of the zodiac from Aries to Pisces. For instance, during Pluto's transit through Aries, people would be able to see transformations and revolutions in how one sees themselves and their relation to others. While the sign of Capricorn, we have seen institutional and self-discipline changes. Also, societies tend to always have revolutions during the Pluto and Capricorn transit, like the United States was born during the Pluto and Capricorn transit, symbolized by the American Revolution against the tyranny experienced from the English. Black Lives Matters, which transformed an entire world population and changed society, happened while Pluto was in Capricorn. Even though we have now entered Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto is such a slow-moving planet that this transit's effects are still being felt while it changes signs. These differences led the International Astronomical Union in 2006 to create a new classification of dwarf planets, of which Pluto is now considered a member. This decision was quite controversial and remains so to this day, with some scientists still arguing in favor of Pluto's full planetary status. The name, Pluto, was suggested by Venetia Burney, an 11-year-old schoolgirl from Oxford, England. After the discovery of the new planet, the Lowell Observatory, where it was discovered, received suggestions for the name from all over the world. Venetia proposed the name, Pluto, after the Roman god of the underworld, known as Hades in Greek mythology. The name was considered suitable for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Pluto is an incredibly distant and cold place, much like the underworld in mythology. Secondly, the first two letters of Pluto are the initials of Percival Lowell, the astronomer who had founded the observatory and begun the search for a ninth planet. The Lowell Observatory astronomers liked the proposal, and so the name Pluto was officially adopted. Pluto is also known for its 5 known moons, Charon, Styx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. Charon is so large compared to Pluto that some consider the two to be a binary system rather than a planet, and its moon. In 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft conducted a flyby of Pluto, providing the most detailed images and data about Pluto and its moons to date. This mission revealed a more complex and active world than scientists had previously imagined, sparking new interest and questions about this distant dwarf planet. It can be said, Pluto remains a topic of ongoing research and exploration in astronomy. Shortly, we will give you a list of important historic events and plagues which happened during Pluto and Capricorn. However, you may be asking yourselves how a planet so far away can have such profound and life-changing effects on the people of this planet. It is well documented that the gravitational pulls of planets, particularly the moon, affects both the climate and behavior of mammals and other forms of life on Earth. The closer a planet to ours and the bigger the planet, the more frequent the effects. For example, the moon is closest to us, and therefore, has the most frequent and impactful effect, mostly because its orbit is shorter than other planets in our solar system. Since Pluto is the furthest, its orbit is less frequent, but its transit can last for at least 15 years, as it is revolving around the Sun and Earth. Remember how long the COVID-19 pandemic lasted? This is not a coincidence. It is because Pluto's transit is so long. With that said, since we all see the moon every day, we will use it to illustrate Pluto's transit effects on us. The moon is most well known for its creation of tides. The moon's gravitational pull causes the Earth's oceans to bulge outwards both towards the moon and on the opposite side of the Earth. As the Earth rotates, different locations pass through these bulges, creating high and low tides. It also affects the length of our days by affecting the Earth's rotation. Further, the moon's gravitational pull causes the Earth's oceans to bulge outwards both towards the moon and on the opposite side of the Earth. As the Earth rotates, different locations pass through these bulges, creating high and low tides. The moon triggers earthquakes and volcanoes as well. The moon is also known for affecting human and animal behaviors from worms to birds, coral to serial killers. My mother used to howl at full moons while I was a kid, but we are not going to talk about that. Anyway, the moon's gravitational pull and resulting light changes due to its orbit can have significant effects on animal behavior. While the exact mechanisms aren't always clear, several phenomena have been observed: migration and navigation, mating and hunting behavior, and circadian rhythms. Some marine animals, such as corals and certain types of worms, have reproductive cycles tied to the lunar cycle. Corals, for example, often spawn en masse during specific lunar phases. In some animals, behaviors like hunting or mating can be influenced by the lunar cycle. For example, studies suggest that African lions are less successful at hunting during the full moon, likely because their prey can see them coming. Some research suggests that animals may have circulunar biological clocks that help them keep track of the lunar cycle and time certain behaviors accordingly. Speaking of predators, the most interesting influence of the moon's gravitational pull and orbit is its effect on predator-prey dynamics. The amount of moonlight can affect predator-prey interactions. Some predators may be more active during the full moon because the additional light makes it easier to spot prey, while some prey species may alter their activity to avoid being out in the open during these periods. Ted Bundy, the infamous serial killer, if you believe the TV movie made about him shortly after his execution, was ultimately caught due to his tendency to kill on a full moon. No kidding. Ted Bundy killed for a decade before being caught, and as you know, one of the keys to catching predators is to anticipate when they will kill again so authorities can catch them. As the story about his capture goes, a perplexed detective who was thinking intently about the case, absent-mindedly looked down at his desk blotter calendar, where he made a habit of recording the nights of the murders, and noticed that the calendar also noted the phase of the moon. The most recent murder, he noted, happened on a full moon. In the TV movie, you see the detective, a man who seemingly operated in the world of just the facts, ma'am, realized that nearly all the murders happened on a full or new moon. He dramatically flips the calendar forward for the next full moon date. The police increase patrols that night, and he is dramatically caught. We do not know if this was a made-for-TV moment, but the point is, it was at least the most believable storyline, as history has strong parallels to beliefs going back to the time of the cavemen. Now that you know more about how other planets affect us, you can see that Pluto can also affect us. Now, let's get into the list of times Pluto was in the sign of Capricorn and some associated historical events, especially in terms of large plagues and society-changing revolutions. The Plague of Justinian. This was one of the deadliest pandemics in history, striking in the Byzantine Empire and port cities around the Mediterranean Sea. It's believed to have been caused by Yersinia pestis, the bacterium also responsible for the bubonic plague. Another example of a Pluto and Capricorn plague is the Roman plague of 590 AD. This plague coincided with the end of the period when Pluto was in Capricorn. This was a serious outbreak during the time of Gregory the Great, and it led to significant social and religious transformations, including an increase in the processions and outdoor prayers that Gregory promoted as Pope. One of the next highly resonating Pluto was in Capricorn transits was during the period from 1516 to 1533. Although the United States did not exist yet, European exploration of the Americas was gaining momentum. This period saw the Spanish conquest of the Aztec and Inca empires, the advent of the Protestant Reformation, and the rise of the Ottoman and Mughal empires. Undoubtedly, these shifts altered the global socio-political landscape. In Europe, during this time, the famous Revolt of the Comuneros happened, which was a major uprising by citizens of Castile against Charles V. Fast forward to 1762 to 1778. The American Revolution was brewed as dissatisfaction with British rule reached a boiling point with events like the Boston Tea Party and the convening of the First Continental Congress. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed, birthing a new nation. Meanwhile, the Enlightenment was reshaping thought in Europe, and the First Industrial Revolution was on the horizon. As far as plagues, there were several major ones, worldwide, during the 1700s, at the time of the American Revolution. The Great Plague of Marseille, which occurred between 1720 and 1722. This was the last significant outbreak of bubonic plague in Western Europe. The city of Marseille in France was the hardest hit, with an estimated death toll of 100,000 people in the city and the surrounding provinces. Also throughout the 18th century, yellow fever epidemics reoccurred in the Americas. Notably, a major epidemic swept through Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in 1793, killing approximately 10% of the population. In Russia, there was an outbreak of the bubonic plague. This outbreak, also known as the Plague of 1771, was one of the last major European outbreaks of plague. Centered in Moscow, it killed an estimated 100,000 people, which was about a quarter of the city's population at that time. Also, smallpox was a recurring problem throughout the world in the 18th century. In the Americas, it had a devastating impact on Native American populations in particular. These outbreaks, like all disease outbreaks, were the result of a complex interplay of biological, environmental, and social factors, but definitely coincided with the Pluto and Capricorn transit. As far as the pandemic Pluto connection phenomenon, thank God that's ending, and now we will all experience both the benefits and albeit challenges of the newest Pluto and Aquarius transits. But the main topic of discussion is Capricorn, so before we continue, please note that the French Revolution happened during the last Pluto and Aquarius transits, so it is no wonder that the ongoing new protests in France are occurring right now, as Aquarius is the quintessential sign of rebellion and revolution. Anyway, back to the subject at hand, and while we are on the topic of revolution and societal transformation. From 2008 to 2023, during Pluto's transit in Capricorn, this period has been marked by incredible change on multiple fronts. In 2008, Barack Obama was elected as the first African-American president of the United States. In 2010, the Affordable Care Act was signed into law, marking a significant shift in American healthcare. In 2011, the Occupy Wall Street movement began, highlighting the widening wealth gap and sparking conversations about economic inequality. The same year, the Arab Spring protests erupted across the Middle East and North Africa, leading to significant political change in several countries. In 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court made a landmark ruling in Obergefell v. Hodges, legalizing same-sex marriage nationwide. And in a shocking political upset, Donald Trump was elected president in 2016. His tumultuous term included 2 impeachments, signaling deep divisions in American society. Yet, perhaps the most transformative event coinciding with this Pluto transit was the COVID-19 pandemic. Emerging in late 2019, it quickly became a global crisis, fundamentally reshaping societies and economies worldwide. The pandemic exposed and exacerbated existing inequalities, catalyzed unprecedented scientific collaboration, and forced the reimagining of work, education, and social interaction. The sign of Capricorn is all on the topic of anti-corruption of institutions. That is why we saw movements such as Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement, and a rising awareness of the urgent need to address climate change, exemplified by the climate strike movement, take a strong and fruitful stronghold in the primary consciousness of people, worldwide. The fact that Pluto symbolizes transformation and Capricorn symbolizes structures and systems, of course there will be revolutions. But remember, these are correlations and not coincidence, that planetary transits are not necessarily causations. Pluto's transit through Capricorn officially ended in March 2023, and it has now moved into the sign of Aquarius. In astrology, Aquarius symbolizes innovation, humanitarianism, and a break from tradition. So, what might we anticipate during this transit of Pluto in Aquarius? Again, we're venturing into the realm of speculation, not science. But if we look to astrological symbolism, we might expect an era of innovation and new technologies, as Aquarius is known for its forward-thinking nature. We could see the rise of new social systems and even greater emphasis on digital and virtual technologies. The sign of Aquarius is also deeply associated with humanitarian efforts and community.
Harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust.
Therefore, we could potentially witness a global focus on social justice, equality, and community building. An increased awareness of our shared humanity and collective responsibility might be a theme during this period. On the flip side, Aquarius also has a reputation for rebelliousness and unpredictability. We might experience sudden changes, rebellions, and a tendency to question or overthrow established norms and structures. So, as stated before, with 9 million Parisians in the streets in just Paris alone, it is also possible that France may experience a significant revolution. Interestingly, with the recent official launch of AI and the large strides in robots, now and for the next 14 to 31 years, there will be a revolution in and a focus on intellectual development, communication, and possibly more significant advancements in fields like AI, telecommunications, and internet technology, as astrologically, Aquarius is associated with the element of air. But let's circle back to the main topic of our discussion, the transit of Pluto through Capricorn. The past 15 years have indeed been transformative on many levels. From political power shifts and social upheaval to a global pandemic that has touched every corner of our lives, these events have reshaped the world as we know it. Yet, it's essential to reiterate that the position of the planets, including Pluto, is not causing these events. Astrology, for many, provides a lens through which to view and interpret the world, a symbolic language that adds layers of meaning to our experiences. But it is not a science, and the correlations we've explored today are just that, correlations. In the end, what truly drives societal transformation is humanity itself. It's our actions, decisions, innovations, mistakes, and collective will that shape history. And it's within our power to learn from these transformative periods and work towards a more equitable, sustainable, and compassionate future. As we navigate the years of Pluto's transit through Aquarius, remember that the stars may offer guidance, inspiration, and a sense of connection to the cosmos. But the real power to effect change lies within us. It's our responsibility to make the most of these times of transformation. In the spirit of Aquarius, let's strive to foster innovation, champion humanitarian causes, and build stronger, inclusive communities. Let's question the status quo when necessary, and always seek ways to improve our world. As we look ahead, let's carry with us the lessons of the past, the challenges and triumphs of the Pluto and Capricorn years, and move forward with a commitment to creating a brighter future for all. In closing, while the stars and planets continue their cosmic dance, we'll continue our journey here on Earth, transforming, learning, and growing every step of the way. Thank you for joining me on this astro-historical exploration. May your path forward be filled with wisdom, courage, and an ever-burning curiosity about the wonders of our universe and our place within it. And as Pluto continues its journey into Aquarius, let's remember, the future is not set in stone or written in the stars. The future is written by us. Thank you for watching.